Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leisrealtalk. I hope everyone has had a great start of the week. I can't believe it's February the 18th. We're already in the second half of February. All right. Well, Jack Ma is back. Jack Ma's rise and fall have become a weather vane of China's private sector. He climbed. Oops. Oh, that was YouTube telling me I'm on. Sorry. Jack Ma climbed to the top as China's richest man by integrating political connections at home and capitals from the West. But then he vanished for months during the pandemic, and the world was asking, where is Jack Ma? His troubles started with Xi Jinping. Um, his troubles with Xi Jinping started in 2020 after a 21-minute speech at the Bond Summit in Shanghai, where he openly criticized China's financial system. He said China's financial system has no real system. And he said China's regulators run an airport like they manage a train station. And then he called China's banks still think like pawn shops. This speech came just days before his Ant Group's $37 billion IPO, which was set to be the largest IPO in history. Days later, Chinese regulators shut it down, and then Jack Ma disappeared. Then came 2021. Xi Jinping went after even more private businesses. In June that year, the Didi Chuxing, the Chinese Uber, Didi Chuxing IPO was blocked the last minute. July 2021, the entire private tutoring industry or private education and tutoring industry was crushed. So was the gaming industry, wiping out billions in market value. Meanwhile, Jack Ma kept a low profile. In 2023, he lost control of his Ant Group after a forced ownership restructuring. 6 months later, his company was hit with a 7 billion renminbi or $1 billion fine. Occasionally, he was spotted in Europe and Japan, with reports saying that he had left China and moved to Japan. Then something changed. Last year, Premier Li Qiang convinced him to return to China. And now he was invited to a high-profile business forum with Xi Jinping. So is this a policy reversal? Has Xi Jinping really changed his mind about Jack Ma and the private sector? Well, first, take a look at who attended this high-profile business forum, which was held yesterday. And what was the immediate market reaction? And then we'll address, is Xi Jinping really making peace with private business? Or is it just another trap? Well, let's first talk about who attended the meeting. According to CCTV footage, here's one. Some Chinese investors marked the business leaders with their stock symbol. So they put this stock symbol or symbols, or their the code of their stock right next to them, right in this map. I mean, in this picture. Anyways, so who do we have at the forum? Well, we have the founder of Huawei, Ren Zhengfei, the founder of Tencent, the founder of Xiaomi, Chairman CEO of the battery giant CATL, the founder of BYD, and of course, Liang Wenfeng, the founder of DeepSeek. And then we also have Chairman and CEO of Meituan, China's Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Groupon combined. The above are household brands that you recognize. The following are CEOs and founders of companies that are less known, who were also at the forum. So we have the founder of Unitree Robotics, the company that made the dancing robots which performed at CCTV's New Year Gala. We also have the chairman and president of New Hope Group, which is the leading agribusiness and food processing giant. And then we also have the founder of China Feihe, a dairy conglomerate. And then we have chairman of Chint Group, CHINT. It's a leading electrical and energy solution provider in China. We have founder and chairman of Will Semiconductor, a chip company specializing in imaging sensors, analog chips, and power management ICs. And then we have chairman of iFlyTech, a leader in AI and voice recognition technology. And then we have chairman of Qi Anxin. It's a Chinese cybersecurity firm. And then we have other business leaders, the founder of Galaxy Space, China's commercial satellite manufacturer that's often compared to SpaceX and Amazon's satellite project. And then we have Hengli Group, China's petrochemical and textile giant that plays a key role in the global polyester and refining industry. And then we have Zhongci Technology, maker and supplier of high-performance permanent magnet materials to global giants such as Siemens, Philips, and GE. So these are the companies and their founders or CEO or chairmen that people have identified based on CCTV's footage. So if you look at the attendee list, other than conglomerates making consumer products like EVs, cell phones, e-commerce, or e-commerce giants, Beijing is now prioritizing several sectors. They are food security and high-tech manufacturing. High-tech manufacturing in satellite, AI, robotics, and data analytics. Okay, so that's six of these business leaders spoke at the forum, and they are the chairman and CEO of Huawei, BYD, New Hope Group. New Hope Group is this agribusiness giant. And then this semiconductor company called Will Semiconductor, and then Unitree Robotics. Oh, and also Lei Jun, Xiaomi's founder. So these six leaders spoke at the forum, although no state media disclosed what they actually said. As you can see from the picture, Xi Jinping and top officials sat on a podium, facing the group of or a group of China's most powerful business leaders. Jackma, actually, Ren Zhengfei, Huawei's Ren Zhengfei, took the. Oh, here's Jack Ma sitting at the end, and here's Ren Zhengfei sitting directly across from Xi Jinping. So he took the center seat. And next to him are the founders of BYD and the New Hope Group, the agriculture giant. Okay, so now there are two companies that were conspicuously absent, and they are the search engine giant Baidu and also TikTok's parent company, ByteDance. After investors realized that no Baidu executives attended the meeting, the company's stock plunged over 8% intraday during that day, making it one of the worst performers on Hang Seng Index that day. So now let's talk about the immediate response, the market response. Well, it's not positive. Here we go. China's stock market reacted with no confidence boost. Despite official propaganda promoting the forum, China's stock markets all went down. On the day following the forum, the market opened slightly lower and then briefly turned positive. But but fell sharply in the afternoon, with all four stock indexes closing down 1 to 2%. The biggest fall was Beijing stock index, falling 2.26%, which is the Beijing stock markets index is not on this chart. This one only shows the Shanghai, the Shenzhen, and also China's entrepreneurial stock index called Chi Next Index, which fell 2%. By the way, China's stock market colors are different from us. Because red is the CCP favored color, so red indicates market is up, and green is when market is down. So that's why you see it's all green from this chart. I mean, it's counterintuitive. I don't know why they do it that way. Usually, red, is a color that indicates danger or alarm, right? It's alarming color, and green is good. But in China, it's the opposite. Well, I want to give you the best example to illustrate the lack of investor confidence is the stock prices of a company called Will Semiconductor. Its chairman, Yu Renrong, was one of the 6 leaders who spoke at the forum. And Mr. Yu sat in the front row. Here we go. Here's a picture of Mr. Yu. He sat in the front row across from Xi Jinping. However, just hours after the meeting, his company's stock price first shoot up and then plummeted. So what went wrong? Well, take a look at this picture. Do you see anything wrong? Investors first reacted positively to him speaking at the forum. I'll show you a picture of the stock. So as you can tell, at the 13th hour, which is 1 p.m., you see the vertical spike. And then 30 minutes later at 1:30 p.m. or 11:30. 13:30. It's 1:30 p.m. The stock price started to plummet, right? And it lasted for another 30 minutes until 2 o'clock. So what did happen? The problem is this picture. You would never guess what was wrong with this picture, but I'll tell you. Okay, so he leaned back in his chair and visually looked too relaxed while reading from his script when he was given the speech. It wouldn't be a problem here in the West. However, his posture was viewed as being disrespectful in Beijing, especially when he sat in front of Xi Jinping and his officials. It's a sign that he wasn't taking the meeting seriously. So criticisms followed, and the word got out. Investors panicked. And 30 minutes later, a sell-off started, and it lasted 30 minutes. So his mistake is called misconduct before the throne. This is the chart I already told you. And so this is what it's called. So this phrase, misconduct before the throne, immediately went viral on Chinese social media. Okay. So, in the suffocating business climate of today's China, a small gesture, a casual remark, or a certain body language can bring serious, unpredictable consequences. This is the harsh reality of running a private business in China, where politics overshadows economics, loyalty and political correctness shadow technical excellence. So, business survival depends not on innovation, but on staying in the party's good graces. All right, so experts say Xi Jinping's outreach to private companies signals Beijing's recognition of needing private sector to compete with the US. While Xi Jinping has long favored SOEs, or state-owned enterprises, true innovations have consistently come from private firms. So a Chinese entrepreneur summarized Xi Jinping's relationship with private business. in this. I think it's the best description of his relations with the private sector. So he said, Xi Jinping, he turns to private enterprises out of necessity, but crushes them to fulfill his ideological mission. So now let's talk about Xi Jinping's relations with private business. And let me come back. All right. So the CCP operates within a totalitarian framework that rests on three pillars: monopolizing property rights, monopolizing political power, and monopolizing ideology. Of the three, Marxist theory dictates that controlling property rights or controlling property is the real foundation of political dominance. Once property rights are decentralized, individuals once property rights are taken away from them, I shouldn't say decentralized, are taken away from people, then individuals inevitably begin to defend their interests. Oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. I back off. Once property rights are decentralized, meaning they're given to the people, then they will inevitably begin to defend their interests, defend their rights, leading to political demands. And this is something the party cannot allow. So when China launched economic reforms, the CCP found itself in a paradox. On one hand, it had to loosen control over property rights to incentivize economic activity and lift people out of poverty. On the other hand, it could not afford to relinquish absolute control over ownership or collective ownership, because real property rights would empower citizens to demand political accountability, right? So the risk, economic success could fuel political challenges. So to navigate this dilemma, CCP controls the key factors of production. The party maintains its dominance over the economy by making sure the private sector never controls strategic industries where pricing power resides. So this was formalized in a policy called 抓大放小. It means keep the big, let go of the small. At the 15th Party Congress in 1997. So the state maintain or retain absolute control over land. All land remains state-owned. Banking, right? Natural resources, agricultural infrastructure, such as water reservoirs, irrigation systems, seeding companies, basic infrastructure, railroads, highways, communication networks. So by monopolizing these sectors, the CCP ensured that private businesses could produce goods, but their costs, financing, and market access remained under state control. And also by controlling the above industries, the state actively dictates the profits of private businesses. So if a sector grew too big or influential, the party could easily cut off access to credit or manipulate the cost of raw materials, and making the businesses vulnerable overnight. And this approach was formally verbalized at the 17th Party Congress in 2007, and it's called 国进民退, the state advances and the private sector's retreats. This strategy was not about eliminating private businesses outright, but ensuring that they remained subservient to state interests. And then came Xi Jinping. Under him, the CCP introduced a third layer of control, that is, eliminating ties between private sector and political elites. Xi Jinping sought to prevent a new class of aristocracy from emerging. He feared the powerful business leaders like Jackma could challenge his political monopoly by teaming up with other political elites. So high-profile crackdowns on conglomerates like Anbang Insurance or the HNA Group were not just about financial irregularities. They were targeted attacks on private firms that had grown too close to power or grown too powerful. The underlying message from Xi Jinping was clear. Private wealth would not translate into political influence. Despite these measures, a new challenge arose during the pandemic. So by 2020, internet platforms and mobile apps had already shaped our life. And the problem this presented to the CCP was that these companies became too powerful. And during China's lockdowns, tech giants kept society running through online shopping, mobile payments, and social media. But their growing influence exposed a fundamental risk to the party. And the response was swift. As soon as the pandemic ended in 2021, the CCP moved to dismantle tech giants. Jackma's Ant Group, Tencent, Didi, and then Meituan, no one was spared. The party's message was clear. Economic arteries belong to the state, not private businesses. Basically, if you look at it, during the pandemic, these tech giants grew too influential. But once the crisis was over for the regime, these tech giants were systematically crushed because Beijing could not tolerate any entities becoming indispensable outside its control. Now, the CCP faces another challenge, that is a struggling economy in desperate need of private sector investment. But for business owners, the lesson is clear. They've learned their lesson. Helping the party today means becoming its next target tomorrow. This is why private business in China, they react passively to the business forum, to the high-profile business forum, because they have figured out they have no way out. If they grow too successful, they become a threat to the regime. If they remain small, then they're at the mercy of state-controlled market conditions. And every so-called opportunity comes with an expiration date, right, dictated by the regime's needs. The last time Xi Jinping hosted a private entrepreneurial forum was actually in November 2018, just as China entered the first trade war with President Trump. That year, Trump imposed a 25% tariff on $34 billion worth of Chinese goods. Simultaneously, China's financial landscape was shaken by major corporate collapses. I mentioned Anbang, right, which was a financial insurance giant that was taken over by China's regulator. And then HNA Group, a heavily indebted conglomerate. So at that time, the private conglomerates had been operating by leveraging close ties with party elites. These business tycoons acted as financial proxies, borrowing heavily from domestic banks, engaging in cross-border acquisitions, and building fast-growing multinational companies. Yet Xi Jinping, at the time, still needed private businesses, particularly in technology and innovation. This led him to assure business leaders in 2018 that private businesses were still part of the party's own family, even though he was, crushing down on companies like HNA, Anbang, Forsen, right? There was another company, Forsen. So that was then. that the message was that the private business were still part of the party's own. You're one of us, the CCP's own family. You're part of CCP's family. Okay, fast forward to 2025. China's economic situation is much dire. The country's financial troubles are so serious that it's no longer about just a trade war. So, for example, I mean, the problem now is so serious that I'll just give you two examples. On the day, where was on the day of the forum, where was that? Yeah, on the day of the forum, which was Monday, there's a private steel company in Shandong called Taishan Iron and Steel, which is a major steel company, defaulted on its debts, triggering protests from hundreds of its investors who had financed the company. And these people demanded their payments. Now, many of these investors are its employees who have been owed back pay and also their investments. Actually, I have a picture of them. This was actually all over the Chinese social media. Here it is. This happened yesterday. I think still ongoing today. So these people maybe they've been forced by their company to lend money to their employer, but the employers are not honoring the bills or the notes. So these people have basically lost their job, their pay, and their life savings. And then on a week ago, February the 17th, this company, it's called Zhongmu Technology, a Chinese autonomous driving unicorn startup that once had a valuation of $1.3 billion, also collapsed. Employees from this company are trying to find their management because they're not being paid. They have not been paid since the end of last year. I think it was end of November that they stopped getting paid. And its founder and CEO, Tang Rui, who is a Chinese American, has reportedly fled. They can't find him. Now, both companies, the Taishan Steel, Iron and Steel, and then this Zhongmu Technology were leading private companies. So that just shows you China's overall economic conditions. And this happened, these news just erupted within the last week, right? From February 11th to the 17th. That was just within a week. I haven't even looked beyond that. I'm sure I could find more cases, of this nature if I go a little further back, to look at January. But there is another news that have come out, which is that China's net foreign direct investment, FDI, in 2024 was only $4.5 billion. That figure is 1%, 1.3% of what China received in 2021 when it claimed victory over COVID. I mean, China did exceptionally well in 2021 when the rest of the world suffered, right? So 2024, the net FDI China received was only 1.3% of what China received 3 years ago in 2021. However, even this number isn't realistic. It's, in my opinion, it's being augmented. Because if you look at the details, for the first 3 quarters of 2024, China reported a net capital outflow of $13 billion. Then in the fourth quarter, suddenly there's an unexpected $17.4 billion influx of investment. And this $17.5 billion influx pushed the annual total into positive territory. So that raised major questions. Why would foreign capital suddenly flow into China in the last quarter of 2024, just after Donald Trump won the US presidential election and threatened China with 60% tariffs. Wouldn't this be the exact moment when capitalists and manufacturers should be leaving China to avoid new trade restrictions? So, given China's history of manipulating economic data, some people explain that the sudden influx of FDI in Q4 was from something called fake foreign investment. Okay, so what it is, I mean, it is actually money flew into China. That money went to China, but it's fake foreign. It's not foreign investment. What it is state-owned enterprises, Chinese SOEs, have kept foreign trade earnings offshore rather than converting them all into renminbi. At a politically convenient moment, these funds are brought back into China, disguised as foreign investment, to boost FDI figures. This is why we saw a sudden influx of investment in Q4. Okay, I mean that's the theory. I mean, I'm not able to prove that, but it's impossible. That's just an explanation, because in the past, Chinese SOEs have been doing this, and so people think this is the explanation that explains the sudden investment influx in Q4. So Xi Jinping's decision to hold another private entrepreneurs forum in 2025 signals that Beijing is now in a panic mode. But the results is not going to be optimistic. After watching what happened to China's tech giants and real estate developers and financial conglomerates in the past couple of years, private business leaders now understand Beijing's pattern, right? That's if you step in to help the economy, you make yourself indispensable. Once the crisis eases, the CCP will crush you, because nobody can be indispensable in that political system. So Jack Ma learned his lesson the hard way. And people who were at the forum said that, actually, I heard this from another YouTuber. People who were actually at the forum said that Jack Ma looked indifferent at the forum. And at one point, he even wanted to leave. I think he was smart not leaving early. It would get him into big troubles. So the quote I gave you from the Chinese entrepreneur about Xi Jinping's relationship with private business, which is that he turns to private enterprises out of necessity, but crushes them to fulfill his ideological mission, also applies to Xi Jinping's relations to foreign countries. If you really think about it, CCP leaders turn to you looking friendly out of necessity, but will crush you to fulfill their ideological mission once they get what they want. If you look at what has happened in the past decades, that proves to be true, right? Okay, so that's all I will say about this business forum, because it is, I saw so much press coverage in the West trying to use this as a confidence booster to make people believe that Xi Jinping has veered off from his past path and is getting into, he has changed his mind and is trying to promote private businesses. But I want to tell you, the reality isn't that at all. Judging by the stock market reaction, and judging by the mere fact that misconduct before the throne. I mean, if that phrase became viral in China, that shows you how people have panicked, or why investors would panic over over a speaker who looked too relaxed at the podium. Why people were so nervous about him looking relaxed while giving a talk. I mean, that just shows you there's no confidence whatsoever. Actually, if Xi Jinping really wants to boost the market confidence, he doesn't have to. I mean, all he has to do, it's just very simple. Um, all he has to do is let the state media publish the speeches of the 6 business leaders, right? If you think about it, I mean, all they have to do is, instead of reporting on what Xi Jinping said at the forum, just, talk about what the 6 leaders said at the forum. That would be a change. That will give the market confidence. But they didn't do that. I mean, it's you went through so much trouble inviting dozens of business leaders to a high profile meeting, and yet you don't even talk about what they said, and there was nothing about what they said at the forum. Now, how are you going to boost confidence? So, I mean, it just, sometimes you think that, anyways, so there's no confidence. The reason I'm doing this talk is because I think Western media is trying to say that maybe there will be a policy change coming from China. I don't think that's happening. Don't believe in that narratives. It's not happening. The Chinese private sectors, the Chinese private sector is very, they know, they know that this is, there's no change. This is just a publicity stunt. For the world's media to have something to talk about China's economy. Anyways, that's all I will say. It's all right. Let's see. BD McGee. Well, thank you, BD. BD, I'm just going through the super stickers really quickly. I want to thank people for supporting me. It is, here we have Steve Jackson. Lei, do you think she's bringing back Jack Ma and the tech guys are a sign of desperation on Xi's part, given he's basically shut Ma away for years? I think it's a sign of desperation. That's exactly, the point I'm trying to make. But they don't know how to do this. They don't have the confidence to really let people speak. I mean, could you imagine just what's wrong with just, give a few quotes of what these 6 people said? I mean, these people, the 6 speakers who spoke, they're not going to say anything outrageous that are not politically correct. I mean, they all of them have said the politically correct things, but why not just report what they actually said? That would boost, investor confidence, but they didn't do that. Charles Womack, do you believe that she actually believes in communism? Oh, he does. On paper, it sounds good. No, actually, he does. That's exactly why, I don't believe the leaders before him believe that. I think like Deng Xiaoping, I'm not so sure if Deng Xiaoping believes in communism, but Xi Jinping does. The reason I say that is Deng Xiaoping, was brought up in the old China. He had a good traditional education during his younger years. He came from an affluent family. He also studied in France. So Deng Xiaoping's generation, they still had the traditional values. They understand what economies or politics or societies were operating before the CCP came. He had that education. He had that upbringing. But Xi Jinping's generation was born after the CCP came to power. So he was brought up during the Cultural Revolution. They don't know what they don't know. He has no idea what a normal society without communism is like. So that's why he truly believed in or believes in communism. So that's my answer. That's the problem. That's precisely the problem. He believes in communism more so than Deng Xiaoping or even Jiang Zemin. I don't even believe Jiang Zemin and Deng Xiaoping. They're just using communism as a tool to brainwash people to obtain absolute control. But in their heart, they don't believe in communism. But Xi Jinping is different. All right. Okay, that seems to be all. I reached the bottom of the comments. Oh, here's a question from Yue Fei. From Nick Fury. Jack Ma will be like General Yue Fei after Xi and CCP had used him. Oh no, Jack Ma cannot be compared with Yue Fei. Yue Fei is a national hero who Yue Fei is a historical hero, so revered in Chinese history. He and his son, his family were brutally murdered by Qin Kuai, and his wife. So Jack Ma is not anywhere close. Jack Ma's status, Jack Ma is not anywhere near Yue Fei. He's not a hero. Jack Ma knew how to work with the CCP elites, and Jack Ma basically, you know, his contribution was he developed a business model for Chinese companies that combines political power from China, that integrates political power in China with Wall Street or Western capital. I think Jack Ma, if anything, if he has accomplished anything, he engineered this model for Chinese companies to succeed on that. He made a lot of people wealthy, right? He made the Chinese political elites wealthy. He made Wall Street people wealthy. But he's not anywhere near a hero. No. History will tell. All right. Is that an informal term, misconduct before the throne? Or is that an official government term for the CCP? There is an expression in Chinese. There's a Chinese term, and it's not a formal CCP term. It's just a Chinese expression. Someone mint creative gifts and ideas. There have been a large number of Chinese-owned enterprises opening shops and restaurants in Singapore. Singapore seems to turn into China's little province now filled with Chinese families. Yeah, they're everywhere. Like I told you, like in Panama, there's 1 million Chinese living there. The local people call themselves the residents of the Panama province of China. So the Chinese are in a lot of countries. So not just, of course, Singapore is an ideal destination because it has the same culture as China. All right. Another YouTube channel. Thank you for your work. Well, thank you, another YouTube channel. Ronald at Indian Lake. Lay strives for world peace. Let's strive for world peace. Let's do that. Thank you. And greeting from cold Shanghai. Well, thank you, YITV, Young Immigrant TV. Well, thank you. Stay well in Shanghai. I think there's an outbreak in China. People living in China should be very careful. The government is not telling the truth. There's something going on in China. The crematoriums are backed up, and because of that, the Chinese have relaxed the restrictions on burial grounds because the crematoriums are backed up. So something is going on in China. The casualties are very high. So be careful. Alan Mendel, what was the question? What do you think she thinks of Musk Doge effort? Is there a symbiotic relation between Musk and CCP? Symbiotic. Is that the right way to say the word symbiotic relationship between Musk and CCP? Um, um, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Xi Jinping thinks of the Doge effort. Um, I have not given it some thought. I mean, it's certainly shocking what they find. I mean, it's good for American taxpayer. I'm happy that they're cutting all these costs. They're cutting all the waste and access. As far as what Xi Jinping thinks, I have not. Maybe he thinks, maybe he should do the same thing. Maybe he thinks he should do the same thing with his, with his system. There's even more waste in his system. I think he would like to have an audit of CCP's accounting system. But I think his officials will be objecting. He will run into resistance. Anyways. All right, symbiotic. Yeah, I said it correctly. Symbiotic. Thank you, Mitchell. All right. All right, that's all for tonight. It's very cold. It's actually very cold here. And I will see you in a few days. Okay, bye-bye.